I think you can bomb all of the port facilities, the docks, everything on Karg Island, for example, where 90% of their oil leaves. So the Chinese can't get it, but you don't have to hit the oil infrastructure. So if there is a regime change, otherwise they'll have zero revenue for the new government. But you can stop their revenue for now because they won't be able to load oil on any tanker. You can do that by the air. You can do it with the Warthogs and the Apaches and keep going, sweeping the Gulf and eliminating these what are basically PT boats. That's pretty easy to do. And then you can.
Why not do it now, though? That's what
I would do it now.
Yeah.
I think he's on the verge of it because he saw that there were some PT boats active just yesterday and reportedly today. He should do it now. And he said today that anybody laying mines would be shoot to kill, but he should say anybody getting anywhere near a civilian tanker or a warship will be destroyed. He should have the same attitude he does with the narco importation to the States.
All right, guys, good Monday, good Memorial Day to you. You know, I always remind people at the beginning of the sort of holidays of this type, the difference. So Memorial Day, as a reminder, and sometimes we need to explain this to young people in particular, is to honor those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. It's supposedly shouldn't be a day about celebration. It should be a day about remembrance. It's somber. For many Americans, including the 13 that just lost their lives in this Iran conflict, it's not a happy day. It's not a day to celebrate. It is a day for us as a country to honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Obviously, we have Veterans Day. That is for those who have served. And we have Armed Forces Day for those who are serving. But it's important to remember what each is actually about, because each should get their own due. And for those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice and their families, it's a day that we honor that sacrifice that they've made, because it may not be just a cliche saying, but freedom isn't free. People put their lives on the line all the time. It's interesting, you know, last week or the week before, I guess, Secretary of War Hegseth welcomed back the USS Ford, longest deployment in modern history, 11 months at sea. It's just a reminder there's a lot of people who have made the ultimate sacrifice that are serving today, sacrificing every day to be away from their family for our freedom. So as we have that barbecue, as we enjoy with friends, just remember what today is about and the many, many families that this isn't a happy day for. It's a day to remember the sacrifice that their family paid for the rest of us. Anyway, before it gets too long, I want to introduce a great man that we had a conversation with a little while ago, Victor Davis Hanson. Hey, Victor, welcome back to the show. Always fantastic to see you, and I hope you are feeling and doing well.
Yep, doing my best. I'm back as much as I can be. Thanks.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, I know so many people, myself included, were thinking of you, praying for you as you've gone through this journey, and it's just, you're a fighter. And but also, honestly, like at a time like this, wow, do we need your voice and insight? Let's start with what the president's dealing with in Iran. I got to say, I think he's in a pickle. A lot of people want to just make it sound like you go to Pakistan, you create a negotiation, and everything will be settled. Give us your lay of the land on where things stand.
Well, there's two strategies, our strategy and the enemy's, of course, as I say. And their strategy is to hint, wink, and nod that they may have 10 or 20% of their missile batteries still intact. And they threaten that if we were to take out their bridges or installations that create power, they would hit the oil fields. And they now and then go out and try to harass or hit ships. And they want to negotiate, stop, rest, negotiate, stop, change, say this is wrong, this is right, forget the last week. And their idea is to drag it on. We're now only 6 months from the midterms. So their idea is that they can create global hysteria about uncertainty about getting into the Gulf. The oil price they think will go up eventually, and they think the Chinese or the Russians can keep supplying them either through the Caspian Sea or a rail line. and they can survive. And Trump is under enormous pressure. He's got the left who want, I mean, I never thought I would say this, but it's pretty clear from what Senator Murphy said or Tom Friedman. The left wants Iran to win because that would destroy Donald Trump, they think. So they feel that they're going to do as much as they can to say the war is lost. And then they hope to win the midterms, impeach him, and cut off all funding for the war by taking the House and Senate. And the Iranians are working hand in glove with him. Trump's idea is, I think it was a good one. He got rid of most of the military first, and then he was magnanimous. And he said, I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to negotiate the you have to relinquish the missiles and the nuclear material and your proxy subsidies to these Arab proxies in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and Gaza. And they were under the gun, and they said they would negotiate. But we're getting to a point now where we're getting accustomed to this quiet, and Trump knows that they're not sincere. They can't be trusted, and he knows that they're going to ramp up the harassment on the seas, and every once in a while they're going to hint they're going to launch a missile. So the next step, he's in a dilemma, because if he hits the bridges, which I think he can in one day, and all of the power generation, then they're going to loosen a lot of missiles, and then we're going to retaliate and probably end the war, but it's going to cause global panic. And more importantly, we're going to be destroying a lot of the infrastructure, which we hope the opposition will rise up, and we would be hurting them. So there's a lot of known unknowns out there. And I think he can get through this if he doesn't negotiate anything resembling the Obama deal. He can't do that. And he makes it clear that he's going to give them a list of targets. And he says every single day that you harass a ship, this bridge is going down, this power plant. It's up to you. Here's the list. And he's done that before, as you know, in the first administration with the Taliban. He said, this is what we're going to do. And I think they will believe him. But it's a very Orwellian thing to see that he has destroyed, in conventional sense, almost with the help of the Israelis, they command and control the ability of Iran to make war as we know it, at the loss of, tragic, but still at the loss of 13 servicemen. And everybody's confusing their ability to survive with a victory. They've been defeated. It's just a question, do you want an unconditional surrender like we did in the Civil War or World War II, or do you want to beat them as we did in the first Gulf War, or something like that?
All right, I hate to interrupt this conversation with Victor, but I'll tell you, as it gets warmer out every night, for many of us, you'll wake up in the middle of the night. You know what it's like. Your sheets are glued to your legs, matted to your neck. You're tossing and turning. It gets a little hot. I'm telling you, for many of us, we crank the AC down, but I have a much better solution, because you don't have a thermostat problem. You have a bedding problem. And guess what? Because it's Memorial Day, you can get 20% off your Boll and Branch sheets with their Memorial Day sale. Their organic cotton is woven for airflow, not just softness. I'm telling you, this is a total game changer. When you go into a set of Boll and Branch sheets, it's literally like staying at the nicest hotel that you've ever stayed at in your life. It is so cool. It feels light and crisp, and it's breathable. And I get hot at night. Sorry, don't mean to share it, but it's true. That's why I love my Boll and Branch sheets. So you can get 20% off your first order plus shipping during the Memorial Day sale. This is not something that happens often. It'll go away. Trust me. So right now, while you have a little extra time, go to bollandbranch.com/Spicer and use code Spicer. You've got to enter it just like that. Boll, BOLLAND, branch.com/Spicer, and get 20% off your first order. Some exclusions do apply. Now back to Victor. I don't get the sense, though, that these guys are looking for a normal negotiated peace. Right.
No, they're not.
And I'm not even sure who we're negotiating with anymore, the IRGC commander or Khomeini or the speaker. But I guess the question is, like, fundamentally, do you believe that the Iranians actually will ever want a negotiated settlement?
No.
Right.
No.
That's okay.
No.
Then thank you. This is what I don't, this is where I'm this is where I want you to walk me through.
Yes. So why is he doing that? I think he's doing it so he can say, I took out Soleimani and I wanted to negotiate. I don't want a forever war. Fine. I took Maduro to Washington and then I wanted to negotiate. So what he's done is he's made it almost impossible for them to conduct war other than just punitive damage with some missiles. We don't know the extent of that. Then he said, now it's the negotiating time. And that gives him the moral edge. For example, they were going to execute these women. It would have been, they understood that was going to be really bad for their European and leftist support. So Trump said, don't do that. So that there's going to be these negotiations. And at some point, I think within the next week or two, something's going to happen, because I know that the Russians and the Chinese are supplying them across the Caspian Sea or on a rail line, but it's not going to be enough. And they're losing, according to many sources, somewhere between 400 and 500 million a day in economic revenue and activity. It's not sustainable. So somebody's going to bring this to a head. And I think they're going to try to incrementally harass ships and create a sense that you can't get into the straits, and then tell Trump they're going to wipe out, or they're going to send another they sent 5,000 drones and missiles into the 6 Gulf states, and they didn't knock them out. And they don't have that ability anymore, but they're going to threaten that. And at some point, Trump is going to have to give them a list of targets and say, we don't want to do this, but this is what we're going to do. And I think at some point, one of the factions will take over. I mean, their problem right now is that, as you say, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the army, the elected officials, and the theocrats are 4 distinct entities, and they all have 2 things in common. They're afraid that one of them will accuse the other of being soft, and they want to be as hard as they can. But on the other hand, they don't want to get a noose around their neck if they fall and the people take over, because they're going to execute all of them. So they're schizophrenic. One day, one elected official says he's a moderate, and he's hoping the regime might change and he can be a transitional figure like in Venezuela. The next day, he's accused of being a softy by a hardliner. So it's a mess, but we got to ignore that. We just have to, if he can get out of the situation by defeating them and making them inert, he can walk away and just say, I don't want to negotiate with you, and I'm going to send in the B-2s again. I'm going to blow up the mountain into cinders, and you'll never be able to get that stuff. And then he can let the Israelis go loose on the command and control and go down the list of all these people. They're all targets, and he can take out their bridges, maybe a power plant or 2, and then he can just say that I did what no other president did. They're not able to make war for a decade.
All right. Before I continue the conversation with Victor, I got to tell you, if you are 64 or over, take a listen to what I'm about to tell you. Or if you have a parent that is in that category, I'm telling you right now, there's something that you need to know about Medicare, because it is one of the most confusing systems in history. And you know what? I got to be honest with you. The people in Washington that created it, they knew this. This was not about helping you make the decision. It is super confusing when you try to figure out what plan you need, what drugs, what doctors are covered and everything. And it's not by accident. Big insurance pushes the plans that benefit them, not you. You need to know this. They'll spend hours on the phone because trying to figure out what's going to benefit them, what's going to make them the most money, not what's going to benefit you. You probably have a doctor you like, certain medications that you're taking. That's why I'm here to tell you about Chapter. It is the only Medicare advisor that compares every single plan nationwide, every single one. The advisors are honest, and here's the thing. They do not get paid to push one plan or over another. Did you hear that? They don't get paid. If the plan doesn't pay them, they don't get paid. They're there to give you the most honest advice. They do this over volume. That's how they make their money. They look at your doctors, your prescriptions, your priorities, and match you to what actually fits. If you're already on the best plan, they'll tell you that. That's the deal. If not, they will help you switch. And it's literally a matter of minutes on the phone with them to give you the best analysis. Here's the thing, and listen to me clearly on this one. The best part, on average, Chapter saves their clients $1,100 a year. $1,100 on average a year. So do me a favor, give them a call. 1-978-746-2315. Let me repeat that for you one more time. 978-746-2315. 2315. It's in the show notes. You can check it out if you missed it. But I'm telling you right now, it is worth the call. It'll save you money. And more importantly, they will connect you with the plan that's best for you. All right, back to the conversation with Victor. I guess what I want to, the scenario that you just laid out is a lot of bombing and not a lot of boots on the ground. So do you think that we can achieve these goals without ever putting a significant force on the ground?
Yeah, I think we can. I think you can bomb all of the port facilities, the docks, everything on Karg Island, for example, where 90% of their oil leaves. So the Chinese can't get it, but you don't have to hit the oil infrastructure. So if there is a regime change, otherwise they'll have zero revenue for the new government. But you can stop their revenue for now because they won't be able to load oil on any tanker. You can do that by the air. You really can. Okay. You can do it with the Warthogs and the Apaches and keep going, sweeping the Gulf and eliminating these what are basically PT boats. That's pretty easy to do. And then you can.
Why not do it now, though? That's what
I would do it now. Yeah. I think he's on the verge of it because he saw that there were some PT boats active just yesterday and reportedly today. He should do it now. And he said today that anybody laying mines would be shoot to kill, but he should say anybody getting anywhere near a civilian tanker or a warship will be destroyed. He should have the same attitude he does with the narco importation to the States.
Great.
I think he will do that. But I think what's happened is he's got, and you know that better than I do as a political veteran, he's got all of these representatives and senators in the Republican Party that are traipsing into the White House and saying, look, your polls are going down in my purple state. I'm in trouble. And they're demagoguing this to death. I need 5 or 6 months of peace and low oil prices to get this out of people's memory, and you to barnstorm the country about the big, beautiful bill and the tax cuts and the foreign investment, and let's get a boom going. And that's what they're telling them every day. So
the funny thing is, I loved I didn't even think about it. The reference to what he does with these narco terrorists, like they just blow the crap out of them. They should start doing this with these ribs, the inflatables, and you refer to the PT boats that are going and boarding these tankers. So the funny part about this is there was this concern that when he prolonged the ceasefire at the request of the field marshal in Pakistan, the president of Pakistan, that the Iranians weren't seeing that as strength. So let's just say the deadline comes and goes again. They don't want to go to the negotiating table. They showed that by not showing up in Pakistan. Do you think at that point he just says, fine, I want to show you I'm not kidding, I'm not bluffing, and he just starts bombing the crap out of,
I think, but I would say at first, let's just say there's not going to be one Iranian ship on the ocean, and we're going to destroy it of any sort. And let's see if he can get more traffic in and he can press, and then let's see if this is really true, what all of these economists are saying, that they're bleeding out 400 or 500 million a day. I'm a little bit skeptical that they're getting stuff in through land routes, but maybe not, or in the Caspian Sea. But nevertheless, let's do that for a week or so. I think he should say tomorrow, I don't feel that you're negotiating good strength. This is an international waterway. We want anybody is welcome to come in as long as they don't trade with you during this embargo. If you put a single ship on to obstruct this blockade, we're going to take it out. And then the ball's in their court for a week or so. And I think they're going to be desperate to do something because they're going to be broke. They were broke before the war, but now they're in really bad shape. And I think he could then say, if they launch missiles at Israel or they launch missiles at the Gulf, I'm going to make Karg Island inoperable for oil revenue. I don't have to put a boot on the ground. They want boots on the ground. And he should tell the American people, we're not fighting in Fallujah. We're not fighting in Helmand Province. We're not going to fight anymore on their terms, house to house with a bunch of jihadis. We're not going to do that. We're going to fight in our way, the Western way, and we're going to use firepower and air power and naval power. And we're not going to make Karg Island in ruin. We're not going to leave it in ruins because we hope some people who are reasonable will need it to rebuild the country. But for now, you won't be able to use it. It'll be inoperable. And then he
And
can say, and give them a list of targets. He can tell the world, these are the targets. I don't want to hit them, but here they are. And I think that would be very good. There's hundreds of bridges, and I don't think they can get civilians out, 24/7 on every bridge in Iran
is
for
that what
very
they
long.
respect, though? Is it, you think the do they, and maybe it's a mix of both, the military might, the economic starvation that we could inflict? Like, what is it that I still can't get my finger on? Like, what are the Iranians actually, uh, what makes them concerned? Because I don't get the sense that normal tactics are like worrying them. They're not worried about their own people, right? You don't. It's not like they're
No,
like,
they're
oh my
not
gosh.
worried about their own people. They're not worried about, they're past all that. They're no longer the terror of the Middle East. The whole myth of Iranian terror and that they're indomitable, and you can go into Iraq, you can go into Afghanistan, you go into Syria, but don't dare go into Iran. They're just different people. That's gone. That myth is shattered, and they know it. What they're scared of, I think, is they have three concerns. One is that they're all going to be dead because the Israelis know where they are and can kill them. Or two, one click or the other is going to kill the other ones. And they may have already been starting that. Or three, at some point, if it gets bad enough, and it's getting bad enough because we're not only blockading economic input and output, but I don't know why we waited this long, but we're debanking them all. And that's going to hurt them. And debank their properties in London, debank all of their people here, all the relatives all over the Western world, cut off all their banking, cut them off. They're also worried that there's going to be an uprising and they're going to be executed.
That's what I wanted to get at. Do you think? I mean, that's the U.S. So many people in the U.S. are like, there at some point there's going to be an uprising. We haven't seen it yet. I mean, is that a real possibility, or is that just what Americans
it's real?
think?
I think it's real in the sense that, to take one example, the Berlin Wall fell in '89, and that shattered the idea that the communists could stop what was coming. But those Warsaw Pact countries, some of them were liberated in weeks, some months, some 6 months. But the Soviet Union didn't fall for almost 2 years after that. But it was doomed once that happened, because once people just said, I'm going to destroy the wall and you can't do anything about it, and we're going to go to the West, then everybody said, if they can't do anything about it in Germany, they can't do anything about it in Poland and the Czechoslovakia, and they can't do it in Russia. So it was a revolutionary process. So I think we're already in that process. It's very important for us to humiliate that regime, because their propaganda to the people were, well, we may be SOBs and we may kill you, but we're your SOBs, and everybody fears Iran. Everybody in the world is scared to death of us. The Gulf, the Israelis, the Europeans, even the Americans, because we have brought prestige and fear to you. So give us that due. But if you can humiliate them, I think we have, then the people are going to say, well, we put up with you, but you're the laughing stock incompetence of the whole Middle East. They just destroyed your whole $500 billion 50-year investment at our expense. They destroyed it while you were giving money to a bunch of Arab terrorists. But I'm a little worried that the administration is not articulating this, in a daily. They should have a very adept, either Marco Rubio or a Pentagon spokesman, that goes over all of these every day and informs the people what's going on. Because in that vacuum, you've got the Chris Murphys and the Tom Friedmans and the Elizabeth Warrens freelancing. And it's just a complete fantasy what they're peddling, that Iran is winning and they're not hurt. The Obama deal was better. These are all absurdities, but nobody is correcting the record.
Yeah, I think that the president says, we're winning, we're doing all that, and there needs to be somebody articulating this to the American people, what we're doing, why we're doing it, on a more consistent basis. I think that's a brilliant suggestion. The other thing that's interesting to me is part of the blockade and the strategy seemed to really focus on making the Chinese feel a little bit of the pain, the heat,
Yeah.
And then getting them to put some pressure on Iran. So first, do you think that that's actually happening?
I think with the Chinese, they do diametrically opposite things at the same time. to cover their bets. So we just stopped a tanker that had missile components going in there to rearm their missiles. But on the other hand, we're making the appeal to the Chinese that say, there's a way out of this for you. You buy 80% of Iranian oil, but when we take this off the market, Venezuela's now, you're not going to get your cut rate from Venezuela either, but it's going to go on the open market, and they're already up to 1 million. They'll get up to 2 or 3 million very quickly, and we're up, I think, 14 million, 15 million barrels. We can make this up, and if we have a free Gulf, you're free to come in here and buy from the new Iranian government or buy, as you do, from the Gulf, and it will be in your interest to go in there. And by the way, you never really had much interest in Islamicism since you've got 1 million Uyghur Muslims in camps. So it's not that you're pan-Islamic, you're realist. And I think that's a better deal than they're getting now. And I think Russia's had it with them. They've lost 1.3 million or 4 in Ukraine. They've lost Syria. All the stuff that they sold them has been blown up. And I think they just want to wash their hands of it. They like the idea that whatever hurts us or makes it difficult is good for them. But otherwise, I don't think that oil is a little high. I think Trump is already trying to triangulate with the Russians and end that war in Ukraine and say, there's no reason why you're killing these people and you've lost everything. You lost Venezuela, you're going to lose Cuba, you're going to lose Iran. Why don't you just, cut loose from the Chinese and triangulate? You'd be no better friend to the Chinese than you are to us, no greater enemy to the Chinese, and vice versa to China. And I think that's what he's trying to do.
So he's got this meeting coming up 14, 15 May in China with Xi. A lot of speculation on both sides about what they're going to try to achieve. Call me skeptical. I don't actually have put a lot of stock into deliverables for this meeting. So let's just start with, do you think there will be actual deliverables for either side coming out of the meeting in Beijing?
I hope not. I hope that he doesn't give them any concessions. I hope he goes over there and says, this is the way it is. For 50 years almost, this regime has killed Americans. They've blown them up in Iraq, Afghanistan, Beirut, all over the world, and we're sick of it. And they threaten these Gulf sheikdoms, 40% of the world's oil, and you're a big oil importer, and what we're doing is in your interest. If you can't see that, that's your problem. But we're going to get rid of this puppet regime. We're not going to let it turn into another North Korea lapdog for you. And if you think real hard, it will still be in your interest because a new government within a couple of years will be there and they will sell you oil on the open market and you can go into the Gulf anytime you want under our aegis. But we're not going to let this regime keep doing it. And that's in your interest. If you can't see it, tough. And I think that's what he should say.
There's a rumor that China is trying to potentially butter up Trump to say, hey, look, Taiwan is just a runaway province. You've, kind of, and we'll help you in Iran if you help us here. Do you think there's any possibility that it would trade off?
I hope not. I've heard that, but actually, if you think about it, I think the fact that China is rumored to be talking in that way suggests that after what they saw of the U.S. Air Force and our new drone capability and all of these marine mines and marine drones and this whole new way of war, on both sides, the idea that you could take 250,000 Chinese and put them in craft across 110 miles to Taiwan in the age of drones, you could have 4 U.S. carriers on the other side of Taiwan and blanket that whole airspace with 500,000 drones if you had to. And you could have marine drones, you could have mine, you could do all of that. So when they look at this and the expertise of the U.S. Air Force and Navy, I think it's a deterrent to them. I think they're really thinking of ways to get a hold of Taiwan without invading. So yeah, I think they're talking about it, but I just don't think they look at Ukraine or what we're doing as a reassuring thought that you can wage an offensive war and with boots on the grounds and take over territory. It's just very hard to do with drones and where we are now in the challenge response cycle of warfare.
You said you hope there's not a lot of deliverables. I think one thing that we need is a better commitment to rare earth minerals out of China.
Yes.
I feel like we're beggars right now. I watched this segment on some show the other day as I was flicking through cable channels, and the guy was talking about recycling electronic goods, right? Like, when you don't use your computer, your phone, and you might throw it off at like Best Buys or Staples. And he said, we really need people to do that because we're running out of key materials. And I didn't realize how bad it was. You think about that, right? And it struck me. I know this guy was just talking about recycling and getting goods, but I thought to myself, oh my God, like if we are that dependent on China for rare earth minerals from everything from computers to cars, I think that really puts our national security in a precarious place.
It does. The problem is that with very few exceptions, all of those materials, especially things like lithium, we have plenty of it here. It's just that for 50 years we stopped developing, mining it, but we also stopped processing it. So it's zero industry. So Trump has tried to get all these federal, but it's going to take a decade. So in the short term, China is trying to use what is a finite resource. They're not going to have a monopoly on these rare earths for more than 8 or 9 more years. And they're going to try to use what they have in that window as leverage. But we have a lot of leverage on them. They are sending tens of thousands of Chinese nationals here. And we've got some of these graduate programs where 30% of the graduate students are Chinese nationals. And when you look at what Stanford, Caltech, MIT, Harvard, what are doing, we're training the next generation, the present generation of Chinese scientists, not all in combat. Some of it's good. They're doing astounding work in medicine, et cetera. But, we're training their aeronautical engineers, their nuclear engineers, and we don't have to do that. We can let them deal with the Europeans. We don't have to let them in. And it's just during the Cold War, we didn't let one Russian student come over here that was a member.
Why don't we? I don't understand this. To me, like that to me, Elise Stefanik has a new book out, Congresswoman from New York. She talks about like this as an issue. Like to me, at some point, like we're letting that they literally are trying to. Let's be honest. Like I think they want world domination, and we don't have a problem with them coming over, studying at our universities. I get it. They usually pay full fare. So is it just about the money? To me, nobody else would let the thief come into their house and then wonder why all of their stuff got stolen. And yet here we are basically saying, send us all your kids. We'll teach them. And then they can go back to China.
Well, I think the problem is this. So I work at Stanford University, and I would say in the graduate schools, maybe there's 7,000 or 8,000 students. Probably 2,000 of them are Chinese.
What?
I'm just giving a number. Yeah, it's astounding. But where I work at the Hoover Institution, I would say that maybe there's 40 or 50 Chinese, either naturalized citizens, first generation, or on green card. When I was operated at Stanford Medical Center and follow-up, I would say that 25% of the people I saw were Chinese.
Patients or providers? I'm sorry, patient or providers?
Yes, providers. X-ray
technician. So wait a second. The people that are taking care of us are med students, or are they they're
all different categories. If I went to get an echocardiogram for AFib, if I went to get a CT, if I went to get a PET scan, I would say that 30% of the technicians or the radiologists were Chinese. And here's the problem, what I'm getting at. 95% of them are either naturalized good American citizens or they're green card holders that want to be. You can argue whether it's wise to give these cherished and coveted births to first generation or I should say green card holders when we have so many Americans that are turned down at med school. That's another issue. But there is an element among that group, 5%. If you have 300,000 students here, and you have 5%, it's a huge number. And that's the problem. So, give you an example. We had in the neurophysiology, we had a neurophysiologist that was a member at Stanford she was a visiting lecturer on the faculty, although temporarily, but she was a member of the People's Liberation Army. She was a colonel in it. And Stanford.
Good. Just stop and think about what you just said.
I know it. And the Stanford Review, the sane conservative newspaper on campus, has had a whole series of just surreal articles about people who studied in, say, Asian studies who weren't even Chinese, and they were being harassed on campus at Stanford by crank phone calls, people tailing them, and then also talking to Chinese students here on visas, and the majority of them were not spies, but they all said that when they return home to China, they're interrogated, and they're scared because they don't know among their cohort who and who is not working for the PLA. So, and then
we're allowing this. We're allowing it to happen.
I know it. And 10 miles from where I'm speaking, from my farm in Reedley, California, there was a biolab in downtown Reedley, right in the middle of, and they had Ebola, they had COVID, they had malaria, they had every deadly pathogen in this laboratory. And they just happened to see it because some water was leaking out, and they went in there, and it had just recently been abandoned. They found at the University of Michigan graduate students that were importing mold rust to destroy wheat. So that happens. We had drones looking at a bomber base in Louisiana. So that all has to be addressed. I think, but you see what I'm getting at clumsily is it falls in the DEI category. So no administration wants to come out and say, we're going to put a moratorium on people coming from China to study here because we can't distinguish the small minority that are actively working to destroy us. And then the outcry comes.
Yeah, but think about this. Think about this concept real quick, right? When you go to the airport, they screen everybody, grandma, little kids.
Yes.
You know that grandma's not going to blow up a plane, little kid's not going to blow up a plane, but they screen everybody, right? Because that's the smart thing to do. And yet here we go, we don't know which Chinese are PLA members, so we'll let them all in. That's got to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It is. I mean, I write things very critical of China, and one day a woman called me and said, I'm from the consulate in San Francisco, and you have wrong thinking. I want to talk to you. And I said, I don't want to talk to you. And she said, I'm outside the door of the Hoover Tower. I'm coming up. So I said, okay.
What?
Yes. So I opened the door. She comes into my office, but I wasn't stupid. I had my two assistants there to be there. And she had this heavy Chinese accent telling me that, that Obama was an idiot because they were taking him to the cleaners, and Japan was
true.
That part was true. And then I said, it's a waste of my time talking to you. Then she broke into a Valley Girl accent.
What?
Said she went to Cal State, and I forgot all about it. She wanted to give me a present. She wanted to go out to dinner. And then one day I saw Eric Swalwell on TV, and I said, that was Fang Fang. And she was working out of the...
Have you told this to people before?
I have. Yeah, and I said, she's working out of the consulate's off. She's not really a consular official. She's some PLA activist for the government who monitors political activity in the Bay Area where Eric Swalwell lived, and not far from Palo Alto. So she had her pulse on anybody who was writing things critical of China, or any politician, or what she thought was an influence, who was trying to come in here. And I mean, she came in with skin-tight Levi's, knee-high boots, her sunglasses tucked in her open blouse, 3 buttons down, and sunglasses, like she was on the cover of Vogue magazine. And she had a very thick Chinese accent, and she dropped it in 1 second and went into a Valley Girl American accent. I don't know which one was.
That clearly worked on Swalwell, didn't it?
Well, I mean, you'd have to be, with all due respect for him, you'd have to be a complete idiot to fall for that. When somebody comes in from China and tells you that they are taking us to the cleaners because they go into Japanese airspace anytime they want, and Obama does nothing about it, and they're going to continue to do that. And then tries to give you gifts and says she wants to go to dinner at a very expensive restaurant on her. Who would be stupid enough to do that? Eric Swalwell.
Eric Swalwell. He almost was your governor.
What? Yeah, he was.
I mean, can I just ask you before, there was a debate in California the other night. I was out in California last week. I'll be actually out next week promoting my book as well. There is a belief that we could end up with 2 Republicans in the runoff. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but do you think that's even a possibility?
It is a possibility, but I'm told that if that were to happen, they would immediately have a recall election and get behind one candidate.
They've already thought this through.
Yeah, they've thought it through. It would be wiser. Both of the candidates are far better than any of the Democrats, of course. I think Steve Hilton has more answers than Bianco, but he's good too. We've never had, I mean, Steve Hilton has a very strong British accent. We're a very multicultural state, so that's not a problem. He's a brilliant guy, but I think at some point, we'll see as this race develops, I think the Republicans are not going to get away with having the 2 top people Republicans. They're going to have to get behind one of them, because I don't think the Democrats are going to. I think they're going to winnow that field out, and they're already starting to do it. But the problem they have was Eric Swalwell had the most recognition of all the candidates, and he was no worse than the other ones. Porter, she's on record screaming and yelling, and she's just an obnoxious, offensive personality.
True. And
Villaraigosa is a perennial candidate that no one wants, and Becerra is a hack. So they don't have anybody there they don't have a photogenic Newsom.
No.
Or, Kamala Harris makes them look like Socrates. So it's they're in a bad situation. But they have a 60-40 registration, 65-30. So they should win, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you for being with us again. Our thoughts and prayers continue to be with you as you get out of recovery. So thank you for joining us, and I wish you all the best.
Same here, Sean. Take care.
Take care. I always love hearing from Victor, and what a way to kick off. I mean, I know it's the unofficial start of summer, technically not till June 21st, which is the summer solstice, but I love Victor Davis Hanson. I'm glad to see he's doing better. He's been dealing with some health issues. Always love that. Thanks for spending your day with us. But by the way, last week on the panel, in case you forgot, I talked about all these Spencer Pratt ads that were amazing. Another really cool one is coming out of New York. Bruce Blakeman, the Republican nominee, taking on Kathy Hochul. Let me show you that ad.
Just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong, okay?
Wait! We need you to support our generous social programs.
New York, we're better than this.
There's Bruce Blakeman at the end.
Uncle Bruce is here today.
If we can make it here, why would we ever go anywhere else?
It's up to us! New York, New York!
All right, that's not as good as the Spencer Pratt ad, but it's not bad either, right? This idea, Kathy Hochul telling everyone, leave New York. They all leave, and then, of course, she needs them to come back with their money because they have this massive shortfall now. So, again, I just love where ads are going, and it's so cool to see that. As I mentioned, we have a great week ahead for you right now. Congressman Randy Fine of Florida, we'll be talking a lot to him about a whole host of things. And man, is he on fire. Unbelievable. Pollster Jim McLaughlin is here with us on Wednesday, and an amazing panel, as always, on Thursday. Thanks for spending part of your Memorial Day with us. I really appreciate it. Take time to think about people who've paid the ultimate sacrifice. We'll see you back here tomorrow. And as always, continue to help support Trump 2.0 on that bestsellers list by going to Amazon and giving us a rating as well as purchasing the book. Thank you for your help. See you back here tomorrow on The Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.